Today we're diving into the launch of Black Ops 6 and how the multiplayer beta is shaping into the final game. Treyarch dropped some blogs and other communications giving us a breakdown of the changes they're making before launch. So let's talk about what this means for the game's release and the player experience. Let's kick things off by talking about the maps. One of the biggest conversations around the beta has been the size and flow of the maps. Treyarch mentioned in the blog that most of the launch and beta maps trended towards medium size, despite early misunderstandings from creators like Nero Cinema. That was later debunked by Exclusive Ace, who alongside JGod's breakdown showed how these maps are actually much larger than people initially thought. Map size and game flow are critically important to us, and we look forward to seeing you all jump into all 16 brand new maps at launch, with many more to follow in our live seasons. We're also evaluating some changes to cover placement across multiple maps, including some of our beta maps, which we'll be able to share more details on closer to launch. I've linked Exclusive Ace's video below if you haven't seen it. But basically, they used math and known distances to show that the grids used by Nero that were provided by Activision were not the same scale and compared the BO6 maps to known maps like Nuketown and Raid to show that the BO6 maps are in fact much larger than originally thought. I don't think Nero was doing anything malicious, and they used the grid scores available to them, assuming Activision would use the same scale for all maps, and I can't blame Nero for thinking they would, which Exclusive Ace showed they don't for some reason. It would have relieved a lot of confusion if Activision just used the same scale for reference. Next, let's talk about spawns. A major part of the beta was focused on spawn logic. Treyarch noted that they gathered 2 weeks of spawn data, making some improvements throughout beta weekend 2. As a key companion to maps, we want to update you on the spawn system. One of the most important reasons we have a public beta is gathering spawn data from our players. Now that we have 2 weeks worth of player data, we've already made big strides in dialing in our spawn logic and identifying and resolving issues within the spawn system across the game for launch. Players may have noticed improvements to spawn logic throughout weekend 2 of the beta, and as new content comes into the game and we generate even more spawn data, we're always assessing our spawn system and will continue to make necessary updates to it through launch and beyond. Hopefully, you noticed the spawns getting better like Treyarch promised. I know I did, at least a little. But we also saw maps like Babylon, where no amount of spawn tweaking could save it from the sheer size and pacing problems of that map. Performance-wise, the beta helped Treyarch resolve quite a few issues. They fixed some script errors and improved asset streaming. Our beta was immensely helpful in identifying and resolving some performance-related issues. Over the course of the beta, we identified several areas that were impacting in-game performance. Some areas where we've made progress in performance include resolving general script errors, addressing issues related to our in-game user interface, as well as overall improvements and fixes to our asset streaming. A smooth game performance is paramount to the player experience, and we've been able to chase down some sources of in-game hitching and deploy major fixes since the close of the beta. Personally, I didn't experience much hitching on PC, but I did see it happen a lot on console. However, I did run into a ton of packet burst issues. Whether that's part of this performance, changes they've made, or it's more of a server issue, I'm not aware, but hopefully all of this gets cleaned up by launch. When it comes to weapons, the feedback was clear. Headshots didn't feel rewarding enough, and Treyarch agreed. A common piece of feedback we saw was that low headshot damage reduced the impact of skillful play and made it difficult to challenge certain power positions. We agree with these points and are working on adjustments to many weapons to reward players who land multiple headshots during an engagement. That said, we do not want hit location multipliers to significantly affect the consistency of time to kill in Black Ops 6, so we'll continue to monitor the effectiveness of headshots during launch and beyond. They're making adjustments to increase the impact of skilled plays and hitting headshots, but they don't want it to mess with time to kill balance too much, so they're still working on fine-tuning that. We'll see how much they've adjusted and how it affects that, and if it satisfies those of us who feel like we should be rewarded more for hitting headshots. Bullet penetration is another area they're addressing. During the beta, there were issues where some bullets doing too much damage through walls, while others weren't penetrating as they should. Also, they're working on weapon class balances to prevent SMGs from overperforming. Let's hope they keep the Jackal PDW in check this time and we don't have another just busted SMG running everything. But weapon balancing is an issue that all the devs of COD have, and it's always something that is talked about in and out of game. and it's something that is extremely difficult. We'll see how they make out on launch. Now let's get into one of the core aspects of COD in general and Black Ops 6. Movement. Treyarch's trying to shoot big with the new Omni movement system, and it's been a huge part of marketing for the game. They're going for more fluid animations, smarter movement, and fixing some of the inconsistencies players reported in the beta. Continued improvements to animation fluidity and fidelity throughout. We identified several areas of improvement to our third-person animation fidelity across slide, dive, jump, and supine prone. Our goal is that you will see in first person is representative of what others see in third person in order to maintain immersion and predictability. Adjustments to slide for improved predictability and fluidity. During weekend 2 of the beta, we increased the time before you could enter supine during a slide. After further assessment based on your feedback, we've reduced that time to find a nice middle ground between where we were in beta weekend 1 and weekend 2. Reduce the minimum time to slide after sprinting to prevent accidental crouching when intending to slide, also known as a dead slide. Slight reduction to maximum slide duration. So they're focused on making sure the animations match each other. Should help kill cams match what you saw on your screen from your POV. When they're referencing the increased slide time for entering supine during a slide, that was in a complete and utter reaction to Zyro finding the basic game-breaking element of the slide cancel into a drop shot. And they found they went a little too far and moved that back. So hopefully we'll be not quite where Zyro found us, but still not quite where we were in weekend 2, where that movement was just unusable. As for the other slide changes, hopefully they cut down on those accidental crouches and minimize the amount of dead slides we get. They also made some movement updates that they referred to as intelligent movement updates, which they touched on as well. As a reminder, you can find our suite of intelligent movement settings in the Movement tab under the controller or keyboard and mouse settings. These settings are broken down by Sprint Assist, Mantle Assist, and Crouch Assist, with the intention of letting you fine-tune your experience with the result of requiring drastically fewer inputs with basic movement and Omni movement in Black Ops 6. We identified an issue in the beta with the additional settings for Mantle Assist that allows for further tuning of directional mantles. These have been resolved and should now behave as expected. These updates should make movement feel more natural and less input heavy, especially with all of the additions of the Omni movement options available in the game. Mantling, in particular, should feel more intuitive now that they fixed some bugs with the directional mantles. There are a ton of quality of life changes coming with the launch, and we saw a few already in the beta. Here's what Treyarch shared about some of these improvements. Shorten the overall duration of the winner circle. To reduce emote spam, players in the winner circle will now only be able to activate one emote. Simplified the emote menu to make it easier to activate emotes in the winner circle and in-game. Improvements to fidelity and lighting. Basically, they're shortening how long the winner circle is, and you only get one shot, and they're making it easier for you to pick the emote and navigate the emote menu, and not having it be quite so clunky. That should keep us in the game, playing more games, and everyone in the action playing more, which is what we all really want. Also, there's a big win for camo grinders and nuke chasers out there. By popular demand, we've added a kill counter on your HUD that will track your progress towards kills and 1 life medals, including those who are chasing the coveted nuclear medal and nuke score streak. This will be a huge help for players trying to track their progress during a match, especially if you're going for something as important as a nuke. Treyarch is also tweaking some perks, adjusting the slot placement for Assassin, Bruiser, Dexterity, and Gung Ho, which should help with perk balancing. The idea is hopefully this will lead to a more balanced perk selection and eliminate any sort of must-use perks for competitive play. As for the Sleeper Agent field upgrade, they're making a key change there too. It'll no longer extend its duration with each elimination, which should help balance it out since it was incredibly overpowered during the beta. Activision is rolling out updates to the Ricochet anti-cheat system for Black Ops 6. Black Ops 6 on day 1 is going to launch with a variety of updated anti-cheat tech, to name a few. An updated version of the kernel-level driver. Note, all features in the October 25th update will protect any title that uses the driver, including Call of Duty Warzone. All mitigations, including damage shield, disarm, splat, hallucination, and others will be live. New machine learning behavioral systems focused on speed of detection. New machine learning detection models to analyze gameplay to combat aimbots. Upgrades when ranked play launches, which include continuous examinations to determine if leaderboard placements are accurate. More on ranked play updates in a future blog closer to the mode's launch. For Call of Duty Warzone specifically, we've deployed new mitigations to interrupt cheaters. Stay tuned for a future report to learn more about these tricks. It's nice that Activision is rolling out these updates, but we've heard this before. Kernel level drivers, machine learning models, and in-game mitigations are all great in theory, but how well will they actually work in practice? How many times have we seen cheaters find ways to bypass these systems within days? Ranked play will have added protections, but they're just admitting that cheaters are expected to be rampant, especially in Warzone. We'll just have to wait and see if they're really ready for the flood of cheaters this time around. Lastly, let's talk about the new audio blog. One of the biggest improvements they're making is to the way distant firing sounds are handled. Specifically, the team has been laser focused on distant firing sounds, giving players information on directionality, distance, and threat level so they can more easily identify where the enemy operator is firing from and then formulate their plan of counterattack. We want to make sure that the soundscape in this game will adapt to each player as they play, creating a living and breathing play space. This is a major W for gameplay, especially since more accurate audio cues can make a huge difference in a gunfight, and we know how chalked the audio has been in Warzone for the last 4 years. In collaboration with Microsoft's Project Acoustic system, advancements in spatial awareness and perception are being pushed to new heights. We've been working closely with the Project Acoustics team to simulate the way that sound waves bounce and propagate throughout the world down to the smallest details, like what materials are made of, the size and shape of the room, and what path the sound has to take to get from where it happens to where you're hearing it. This is a huge plus from Microsoft's acquisition of Activision because it gives Treyarch and the other devs who work on Call of Duty games access to cutting-edge tech that will help boost the overall sound quality. They also confirmed that footsteps will be tuned similarly to how they were in Beta Weekend 2, with the audio being slightly boosted for clarity in the example video in the blog. Hopefully this will help bridge the gap between PC players who run loudness EQ, or heaven forbid, the Art is War audio tune, and PC players who don't run any sort of audio enhancement, or console players who can't use any of those settings at all alike. Evening the playing field with improved audio directionality and perception is always a W for competitive fairness. All in all, it sounds like Treyarch is listening to the community and making some much needed adjustments ahead of the Black Ops 6 release. The game is shaping up to be one of the smoothest Call of Duty launches yet, especially with Treyarch having been in development for 4 years on this. We'll see how these changes play out, but I'm definitely excited to back in when the full game drops on October 25th. Keep the energy high, the vibes positive, and until next time, spread the love, fam. We'll catch you in the next one.